close to the Ohio River. I'm seeing the time, and I walk out on the porch and had to have a Kentucky license. When the Ohio River,
Well, needless to say, it's gonna probably eventually happen.
you go fishing in the Ohio River, and you go on a boat,
Because it's,
you can fish with Ohio fishing. But if you're not on the bank.
because they're gonna have to adjust.
Did you know that the canal, that,
Yeah.
wall right there? Jack, do you know the canal river? Yeah, the Erie Canal.
Well, we have the canal that's here in the valley,
Yeah.
ran through here, ran down to the Tuscarora River.
Right.
They transport, they used to do a lot of transport.
Also,
Well, that river dumps into Ohio. Yeah.
anyway, so.
Anyway.
Yeah, she liked my turkey side. We used some of them yesterday. And also I thought, I'll bring them tonight. The coffee on the left is stronger than the coffee on the right. So if you want roast roll coffee,
And is it ready on the left?
that's the.
It's not Chipotle.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Coffee, water.
We're broadcasting.
Huh?
Or online.
Right now? Oh, gross. You just scarred people for life.
I fell asleep at 4 o'clock, but stuff, so. It's just kind of tired myself. Wow.
Mike.
I work today anyway. Worked part of the day on the ladder too.
Oh, yeah?
Almost fell off twice. For putting up air handler.
See, it's a good thing that we wait for safety for you.
What is that, it was a little fall, so it just hurt bad.
There we go. Well, I guess we're all set there. So we're gonna go ahead and pray.
Close the door, please.
Here in just a moment here. In the middle of something. All right, let's go ahead and pray here. All right. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you again for watching over. Thank you for a place to meet tonight. We thank you for each one that's here. Pray for those that might yet be on their way. Also pray to be with those unable to be with us tonight. Bless also that the YouTube broadcast tonight. Help us to be a blessing to somebody through that as well. Father, thank you for the food, the refreshments. Bless that. Bless our fellowship this evening. Bless the time we spend in your word. Pray you open up your word to us this evening. Guide us and direct us. Help us understand what's happening in the world as well through the light of your word. We just pray your blessing now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Well, so how many people were racing out for Black Friday?
I had to work, so.
Mario was on the couch.
I rolled over.
I didn't see, I drove past the Best Buy this morning, didn't see that, did you?
I just rolled over and went back to sleep. I saw something online, I guess Black Friday in some places was pretty busy.
I was out.
bank, but there wasn't a lot of traffic, not a lot of people out. Surprisingly. I go around the mall.
Already last week.
Did everybody see about the terrorist attack in London?
No,
I saw that internet with the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
when was this?
2 o'clock London time.
Today. It started in this building. Guy with 2 knives attacked people in this building.
Illegal knife.
Yeah.
They have knife control.
And it keeps the violence down just as well as gun control does.
Here,
Yeah,
Is it
which is
not?
not
How
much
did
at
they
all.
cut their rolls and their bread?
Well, somebody actually did propose in England that nobody should have a knife in their home longer than 2 inches. Why would you ever need a knife longer than 2 inches? And of course, specially trained and licensed people in chefs and butcher shops and things might be allowed to have an occasional knife, maybe a little longer than 2 inches. But why would anybody in their own home need a knife longer than 2 inches? So that was the theory. But they do have strict knife control in London, in England. And guy of, as the report said, of Middle Eastern origin. And they're investigating it as a terrorist attack. He started in this building, but apparently several people came after him. One guy brandishing a fire extinguisher, spraying it at him. Another guy had a stick or something he was beating him with. And he was chased out onto the London Bridge, which is just upstream of the Tower Bridge. And they tackled him. I mean, he was wailing around with his knives. At least, the report I read, at least 2 people dead, number of people injured. He had a fake suicide belt on. So the police, when they arrived, they shot immediately. They shot him. They took at least several shots at him. But I guess he survived. They found out the suicide belt was fake. So
Then he died, didn't he?
I don't know if he's dead yet or not.
Yeah, he said he did.
Oh, okay, then he's dead, yeah. So we'll just never have any idea why he did what he did, I'm sure. I mean,
Well, I think
purely a
Allah
coincidence
Akbar?
of Middle Eastern origin.
Is he saying Allah Akbar?
Well, that would be purely coincidental.
it's the influence of those evil knives. He did it so that they could ban fire extinguishers.
Yeah, they got it.
And sticks.
So,
Wow.
but there was a terror alert over Thanksgiving this weekend, because they don't have Thanksgiving there, but over this weekend in Europe. Italy in particular was really concerned about some attacks, but it turned out that Britain was where the attack came.
What about this Hong Kong day? When I was in Hong Kong in the 50s, this side was Hong Kong and this side, both of it was Hong Kong, but the other side was English. Okay, now the English would tell you, we own this island, and, but in 1997, it'll be turned over to Britain, to Hong Kong.
Yeah, they had a lease, or China, because they had a lease, and I think they should have turned it over to the Taiwanese government, because their lease was established with the Free Chinese government, not the communist government.
Well, that's what's got me confused. Why they take a vote or they stay with Britain or what? Because they're already Britain, I'd say.
Well, that's why a lot of them didn't want to do that, but the lease was up.
So the Chinese are not too negotiable. They got pretty well what they say as
Yeah.
they go. They're getting by with it over there.
But they gave a certain amount of autonomy to Hong Kong because it's a cash cow for communist China. Hong Kong brings in so much money. This idea that the more densely populated an area is, the poorer it is. Singapore, Hong Kong, and what's across the bay from Hong Kong? Was it Macau or something like that?
Macau.
Which was a Portuguese colony or lease as well. They give that back to China as well. But these places were fantastically wealthy, and it's because they had, strong capitalistic systems in place. So China's using Hong Kong to pull in money because they need money to finance the stealing of our technology and other endeavors over here.
Right.
So.
Their military is keeping it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of people like Madam Pelosi own a lot of Hong Kong.
Probably in bed with the Chinese.
Wherever the money's at.
Did they take a break on the impeachment?
Probably not.
Now, it's supposed to get over to what, the judicial committee now or something?
On
I hope that when these people go home, that they hear from their constituents about how bad it
I
is.
hope they don't.
So now it's Nadler's turn.
I think. But they've been, a number of the Democrat Senate or House members are now backing off from the impeachment because they're in red districts and they're afraid they're gonna lose.
That's what they say, but I don't kind of doubt it.
Well, it'll be interesting to find out. And we'll find out this in less than a year. But, well, actually, we may find out in some of the primaries because some of these people have primary challenges now over this. And we were talking last night about how a couple of studies that indicate about 34% of the black vote is for Trump now, which is impressive, especially since the Democrats believe they need at least 80% of the black vote in order to win the presidency. They need 80%
All
plus
depends
a
on
good
territory.
turnout.
So that's why they want all the illegals to vote,
Mm-hmm.
so they can bolster their numbers.
Too many of the black community are getting jobs, becoming middle class. They're getting off the Democrat plantation and experiencing freedom. And they kind of like it. Plus, they're not thrilled with the impeachment nonsense either.
They have a keen sense of what's unfair and what is fair, and the impeachment is unfair.
Hey, Audie.
Well, when he's constantly pummeled and being railroaded every day. If there's somebody I can see understand being cynical, it could be him. You know what I mean?
I think he's getting a lot of the middle
Yeah, it's,
and a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you talked about the black sit and the other exits from the liberal parties. A lot of people are seeing the left as leftist
Right.
and communist. And they want to have they still want to have a republic. And they're starting to come to their senses. But the ones that are gone, only God can save them at this point. Because I've got some in my own family, and they just are in lockstep with everything that CNN is teaching them.
Mm-hmm.
And teaching them, that's the right word.
on every front. I mean, they think that, I mean, sure, there's a lot of crooked politicians and crooked lawyers and all this kind of stuff in government. But they refuse to even look at Biden as being one of them.
Well, you know, what you just said there, I was watching this thing earlier tonight. Tapper interviewing Jim Jordan on CNN. I was watching online. And he was flat out denying that Biden did anything wrong at all. And that there's no evidence that he pressured the Ukrainians. And the only reason that they fired the Ukrainian general prosecutor is because he wasn't investigating anything. And Europe wanted him out, and the UN wanted him out. And the transcript absolutely says that Trump wanted him to investigate his political rivals so that he would be able to have a leg up in the election. And Jordan can't say, that's not true. He goes, oh, yes, it is. How can you sit there and tell me it isn't? Because we have the transcript that I read it. It didn't matter to Tapper.
It's really kind of sad to watch it all happen.
Mm-hmm.
There are none so blind as those who will not see.
Mm-hmm. And so Jordan tried to go back and show all his ties together with the fake Mueller probe, because Mueller, as soon as he started the probe, knew there was nothing there, but they kept it going for 3 years.
Indeed.
He even admitted that he knew there was nothing there in the first month of the probe. And then you had the others try and keep him from taking office, taking the oath, and all that stuff from the very beginning. The moment they called him to win the election, he had the moment of shock. But then before the night was over, they were already rolling on how to try and keep him from ever being elected or taking office. And all this, he was beaming. Happy post-Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you.
But, and then Tapper tried to shut him down and say, oh, here you go again. That has nothing to do with this. He's like, it's got everything to do with this. This is just one element of the largest political scandal ever to hit our country. And most people out there are completely clueless about it. But when you got the previous administration weaponizing the intelligence services of our country against political rivals, and not just Trump, but there's evidence that he did it in his re-election campaign, which would have been, who did he run against in the Democrat Party? No, did anybody challenge him as a Democrat? I don't think so. But he ran it. I mean, they used it against Romney, and they've used it in congressional races.
And it still makes you wonder what he used against Hillary at the last minute to keep her.
He must have had something. Maybe it was Epstein.
Well, there's stacks and stacks of dead people that he could have chosen to release any kind of information.
I heard yesterday, the reason why they got Adam right up at Bateman. He started out, he studied to be a movie writer. And he flunked out, I guess, but tried to politics.
Well, you can see why he flunked out as a movie writer, because the script he wrote for this hasn't been very successful. It's been getting horrible reviews. It's about to get canceled.
The interesting thing, and kind of a good thing, is seeing my 4 sons this week over Thanksgiving. They were bringing up some of this stuff about Epstein, like these young kids were informed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. They were talking about
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know,
a lot of this stuff, and they go online and they do their own. And I was quite happy to hear that they weren't just, watching cable news.
Mm-hmm.
you know, well, a percentage of them got hosed in a nutshell from the previous administration, so. with all the false promises and lies and deception, so they're paying attention more. A percentage of them, not all.
But having all this nonsense over there in the House right now, they're not doing much of anything.
They haven't for
Which is
2
great.
straight years.
This is great.
Yeah.
Because while they've been over there with all this stuff about why Trump is so evil and horrible and needs to go and is gonna go any moment now, Trump has been nominating people to the courts, and the Senate, not having anything coming over from the House, has been busy confirming nominations. He's split 3 courts now,
Good.
and he's nominated more judges, federal judges, and had them put on the bench in his first 3 years than any other president has in their entire career.
This is good news.
It's excellent news because these are, not all of them are going to stay strong and stay constitutionally strong, but most of them are constitutionalists, meaning they go by the letter of the law, not by what we think it should mean.
Not the breathing, living document that.
Exactly. They're saying it's a,
that needs to evolve.
they're saying if you want it changed, you have to amend it.
Right.
So this is good for our country because these are the people that keep overturning everything good and persecuting everything that's good. And
Don't you think it'd be Psalm 2?
what's that?
Why the heathen rage, people beg.
American the main thing?
The Lord, having derision.
You're seeing it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Same with, a lot of this stuff is, we're seeing it. That was prophesying.
Well, speaking of prophecy, the Orthodox rabbis in Israel believe that Trump is fulfilling prophecies by his actions. One, recognizing Jerusalem and then moving the embassy there. Also recognizing their right to the Golan Heights and the West Bank to build settlements in the West Bank. And as soon as my computer wants to cooperate and actually pull up the verses, there's a passage that they're pointing to, I think it's in Jeremiah, that it, I have the wrong thing checked here. It indicates in the latter days they would be rebuilding in the, what's the West Bank territories today. Let's see if we can find this here.
Well, Trump ought to have good guidance when it comes to Jewish, because he got a son-in-law that's Jew.
Well, his daughter is converted to Judaism.
And on the other side of the country, you got that minister out in Dallas, Texas, what's his name?
Jeffers.
Well, Jeffrey and Katie out there, both are supporting him.
he's not strong on the King James though.
No.
No, none of them are.
They don't give a bad message, but still.
What happened with Netanyahu, he couldn't form a government.
No, he
Here it
still
is.
doesn't have it.
Zechariah chapter 2. I think is where we're going to talk about. Not quite Jeremiah. Zechariah. Chapter 2. Let's see, Zechariah chapter 2. And starting in verse 10, it says, "Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith the Lord." And that, of course, reference to the millennial kingdom, I believe. "And many nations shall be joined to the Lord in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that the Lord of hosts hath sent me unto thee. And the Lord, verse 12, and the Lord shall inherit Judah his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. And this part right here where it says that the Lord will inherit Judah his portion in the Holy Land. Well, where was Judah's portion? Bethlehem, ring a bell? Bethlehem was in Judah, remember? Because Jesus was born in the city of David. David belonged to the Israelis because there's no evidence that they ever had it, except that Jesus was born there in the city of David, which is Bethlehem. So this means that there's coming a day when they're going to be there. Now, this is, of course, referring during the millennial kingdom, of course, but the Orthodox rabbis in Israel are saying Trump is helping fulfill that right now. I mean, so this is what they're saying. In fact, let's see here.
Might not get them to believe in Jesus, but they believe in Trump.
Yeah. They said President Donald Trump once again proved his unequaled friendship with Israel. His announcement of what should have been a non-controversial recognition that Israeli settlements are not illegal generated a predictable response. The usual suspects came out to denounce him and predict the end of the world, just like they did, the other times. But for time's sake, let's go on down. It says, this decision completes the reversal of the disastrous policies pursued by Trump's predecessor. It is particularly galling to read all the former State Department officials complaining. I like they said former State Department officials. These are the same individuals who spent decades pursuing their ideas for achieving peace, all of which failed. Nevertheless, so this is he said, or the policies, it was the policies of Obama, that President Obama, the peace process in that area. But they're saying settlements are an obstacle to peace. That's what the enemy say, other than the fact that the Palestinians will not recognize Israel. That's not an obstacle to peace.
What happened with Kushner's peace agreement last year? It never got approved.
I've not really heard much about that one. I don't know that it's really gotten that far. Elements of it might have gone somewhere, but
Hostilities went up when the settlers were pulled out.
Look at the Gaza Strip. No trouble at all until the Israelis vacated it.
Well,
Now it's nothing but trouble.
so, if one were thinking about this,
It was prosperous. The people were well fed, well educated, well taken care of, worked. Now it's a third world. Well,
What did they say had a bunch
it's a
of
dystopia.
greenhouses that
Yeah,
they're
they
that were
probably broke
feeding
them all
out
up.
a percentage of
Yeah.
Europe. And,
They destroyed them all.
yeah.
They
That's
don't
just,
even
that's,
generate their own electricity. The electrical plant that some of the main areas of the Gaza Strip is in Israel. Israelis give them electricity.
that's,
the Israelis
so-
are very generous.
they're so blinded by their own hatred.
That's exactly it.
I mean, they're destroying their own infrastructure then. Because they're,
It's that whole Psalm 83 thing where they said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation that the name of Israel be no more remembered.
you see that in the same thing with the hearings with Trump.
Mhm.
They're blinded by their own hatred.
Mm-hmm. Well, similar mindsets.
It's,
Antichrist.
He recently tweeted a photo of his head on Sylvester Stallone's upper
Rambo.
body, in the fighter. one of those rocky things. And then the media immediately says, oh, we gotta get to the bottom of this. This is real, this is doctored. You know, they're, like Trump was trying to pull one over on them. Uh-huh.
But you see it in Hong Kong where they were holding up
Yep.
pictures of him with.
They were holding
Yeah, the
that
US
up
flags,
and US flags and singing,
Singing
US
our
anthem
national anthem.
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Praise the Lord.
Yes, and so, you know, the media have absolutely no sense of humor whatsoever,
Right.
and no self-awareness either of how ridiculous they are.
Wonder how ridiculous they thought it was whenever they were bashing Trump. Going over to visit the troops. Because he wrote a script that he's going to go out to play golf and have one
Mhm.
wonderful time. Next thing you hear, Trump, he just got landed, he just come back from over visiting boys overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess a decoy limousine was sent to the golf course, and it was suspected that he was in there, and they just assumed that he was goofing off because, well, you know,
That's what yeah.
that's
Well-
what they think of him.
You know, that's it was as good as, remember when George W. Bush went to Afghanistan or to Iraq? He flew in, but they didn't even go in the presidential limousine. They went in another vehicle. He was dressed so that nobody would recognize him. They grabbed a few press members, said, leave your cell phones and everything behind. You can't say a word to anybody. Let's go. And they went out, got on Air Force One. They flew over. They had the transponder pinging that it was a commercial flight of some sort. A British Airway pilot visually saw Air Force One and said, that doesn't look like commercial flight such and such. That looks like Air Force One. And he was told in no uncertain terms, be quiet. And and see, an airplane, the only way on the scope that they know what that airplane is what the transponder says it is. So if there's no transponder operating, it's just a blip on the scope. They can get the altitude, they can get the speed, maybe even an approximate size. I don't even know how good that is, but they don't know what it is because it's just a thing on the scope. But the transponder tells what type of an aircraft it is, who it's registered to, all the information about it. And so when it comes up on the scope, they know exactly what it is. If the transponder sends incorrect information, let's say that we had just for the sake of argument, a Korean airplane flying along the edge of Soviet airspace, maybe just kind of going into Soviet airspace. And just for fun, we had an Air Force reconnaissance airplane shadowing it, sending out the same transponder signal so that on the scope, they just see one blip and they get the same transponder signal. So, or sending no transponder signal at all. What would they think at air traffic control? Well, just one aircraft. And then if something happened to one aircraft and the other one separated away, and now they see one blip go this way and one blip goes that way, and the one going in both directions has you see how they can confuse things? Just a supposition on my part.
That's
But
pretty good hypothetical.
not that there would be any time they would ever actually have done that.
KAL, yeah, something like that.
Sounds like a 007 plot, doesn't it? But, so yeah, because the Air Force One came in and nobody knew it was there until, even the people on the ground didn't know it until it actually was there. And it was surprise.
I hope you're ready for review, here he is.
Yeah. But I had
Everybody look busy.
there's a video out. This is let's see if I can get this up here, whole thing. This is he arrived, and when he got there, they took him by car from the airplane. And you can see all the people, but when he gets in there, you can tell he's really afraid to be around the troops.
Oh,
Yeah.
Look how standoffish he is. But he's like shoulder to shoulder. They're pressing up against him.
he's
He
not
was-
standoffish.
No, he's like literally rubbing shoulders with these people, and they're just a mob of them. But I said, well, hey, he's right there in the midst of the troops. Be a safe place to be.
Make sure Nidal Hassan isn't anywhere near.
Yeah, but he's in there posing for pictures.
He was serving in Turkey and,
Yes, he also served the
Yeah.
troops.
yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Well, they've been getting a lot of negative press on what he
They're
did
one
for
of the Secret
those,
Service guys.
what those three guys off, he,
I didn't hear about that.
yeah, the one SEAL that, they wanted to, they couldn't get him on anything else, so they wanted to take his trident away. Or what do you call it?
Trident, yeah.
Trident, that's it, the SEAL, they were,
It's like earning your wings as a pilot. You earn the Trident. You don't just get one. You can't go buy one of those. You have to earn it.
and there was another, lieutenant that was in for 6 years, something like that. And, he got him out, he let him out, and there was three military men that he pardoned. And the press wasn't happy about it. Of course, the Democrats found everything they could possibly find negative to say about it,
When the Secretary of the Navy said, "Oh, if you don't let us take his Trident, I'm going to resign," and he basically said, "Bye-bye," which is great. I mean, I was listening here that Jonathan Gilliam, he was filling in for Wilcow yesterday, I think it was, or yesterday or the day, I think it was yesterday. And I was listening to him, and he was talking about it. And basically, the rank and file of the SEALs are glad that the commander-in-chief stood up for them. They looked at the Navy secretary and some of these other officers. These are all people who rose to prominence during the Obama era. And they looked at them as politicians who don't have the rank and file. And they're, interested, best interest at heart. They're more interested in their own situation. And so when he let when he stood up for the SEAL and let the Secretary of Navy go, they really respected that. And they're trying to say, oh, yeah, the veterans don't like that. I might not have been a Navy veteran, but I'm supportive of it. So,
The Navy veterans probably want to appreciate it more.
yeah, they should, yeah.
What a smart strategic way to just get the rats out of their holes.
Oh, yeah. And there were several others. Yeah, there were several others in the Special Operations Command structure. Because, see, President George W. Bush really started growing the Special Operations Command. And Obama, of course, came in, basically started doing everything he could to pull his teeth, making it political. And the whole thing that they wanted to take his Trident for was supposedly posing for pictures with the dead bad guys. And fake pictures circulated online that he was supposedly posing holding the severed head, and which never happened. There were some Photoshop pictures to that effect. He's just standing there, and they were like, "Oh, this will make them mad at us." They who routinely pose with severed heads.
Exactly.
It's going to make them mad at us. No. And besides, what's the average age of a SEAL? Probably upper 20s, low 30s. By the time you get to your young 30s,
You're just about
past your athletic prime, because, Gillum said the same thing. He said he came in later as an older SEAL, and he wasn't able to continue with them for long because it's such a physically demanding regime. Not just getting qualified and then going through the SEAL course, but also maintaining those skills.
Right.
Very physically demanding. And they're telling these guys, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you gotta check with headquarters before this can happen, that can happen.
What about, did he pardon, Flynn and,
Not yet. That's still.
There's
working
development
its way.
with Flynn, right?
Flynn hasn't even been
Charged.
adjudicated, yeah, I mean, he's gone to some court, proceedings, but he hasn't been,
Well-
there's no sentence been laid out for him yet, so he can't do anything until a sentence is passed.
Flynn's current lawyer is a good one, Sidney Powell.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she filed a joint petition with the Department of Justice wanting to delay the next step until after the IG report is released. So this is interesting because she's not dumb and she's really fighting hard for him. So if she went along with delaying it, this must be a good thing to delay it because some information will come out from the IG report that will impact the sentencing. Like maybe the judge will say, this is crazy, throw it all out.
And she's doing it for free.
And let's sanction those lawyers who, kept pushing on it when they shouldn't have.
and same with, what about Roger Stone? Is he still locked up? Didn't they take everything from him too?
He's the one they came after in the middle of the night with a whole
Yeah.
SWAT team, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They've got him,
Yes,
they've got him on something.
Somehow.
Yeah,
They just-
somehow CNN knew, just so he happened to be in the neighborhood with a whole crew.
Something
If you
3
listen to
hours
what
in
they
the
have
morning.
him on, though, you may not be able to get out from under it. It's something a little bit unrelated. I'm trying to remember what it is. It doesn't come to me. It's something that none of the rest of them seem to have gotten involved in.
But there's several of these guys. There's just that Papadopoulos who was over in Europe, and this guy tried hard to get him to take this money.
Right.
They found out that that guy was actually planted. It was all orchestrated. So when he arrived back at, I think it was Dulles he came into, the FBI was already waiting to arrest him. And they immediately searched for the money. Well, he didn't have it on him. He sent it back like FedEx or something.
Well, you left it with a lawyer.
Or left it there, that's right. Then it was gonna be sent back or something later, but he didn't have it with him. But they were counting on him having this money. And they were going to charge him. They had it all set. They were gonna charge him with for having this money, illegal money,
Well,
and blow it all out of.
It may not have
but-
been illegal, but the point is you can't bring it in without declaring it.
Well, and see, they had the whole thing set up. It was all a big setup through no real advanced thinking on his own part. It just seemed like a good idea rather than travel with a bunch of money. He gave it to that lawyer
Yes.
to make arrangements. And that messed them up. I mean, it didn't stop them from arresting him because now they have him with the cameras rolling, except it doesn't have the money. It's like, oops, now what do we do?
No evidence of wrongdoing.
Yeah.
You should call Charles.
Doesn't stop them.
And Jerome Corsi, same thing.
Yeah.
They shut him down.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst one was what was it, Kelly?
The one that was the chief of staff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, when they threatened to bring his kids, get his kids involved in,
No, that was Flynn.
yeah, Flynn, I was
Flynn,
saying,
yeah.
and
That's when
that's
he-
when he rolled over, yeah.
Yeah, to protect his kid. He fell on his sword to protect his kids.
He fell.
And that's what you hope. that's
Metaphor.
not happening with
How do you
our-
fall on the
Metaphor,
sword?
sacrifice yourself for others.
It's like, oh, I shot myself in the back of the head accidentally.
No, that's a Hillary.
Right.
Yeah, twice.
With the wrong hand.
And with the
This
shotgun.
lieutenant that he pardoned, he was already in for, I think he was already done 4 or 5 years or something, but he took over a platoon as a new lieutenant, in charge head of a platoon. And the platoon was on guard duty, and they had just had an incident maybe 3 weeks earlier where some of the locals came in motorcycles and
Mhm.
city set off bombs that they were carrying. So the same incident looked like it was happening again. And he gave his men the go-ahead to go ahead and fire on these.
And that was the right thing
And
to
it
do.
was, because it's a split-second call.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, of course, they found him guilty of willfully having his men murder these locals, and it was just, it was a really a put-up thing.
But that's been a technique for who knows how long, because I remember reading a biography of Hancock, the Marine, or the was it Marine sniper? I think it was, yeah, Marine sniper in Vietnam. And he was the most successful Marine sniper. And he said one case they had this old guy, he was given a gun that could barely work. And he was given orders to shoot at the Americans every evening by the Viet Cong. If they didn't, they were going to shoot him and his family. And so every